Welcome to another Chats from the Chest Freezer. Oh, the temperature today is 2.7. Far out, it's cold. But today's guest, the first guest for 2020, is a man who has quite a cult following. He's a man who's been subject of a pretty popular documentary on Netflix and also starts his races by lighting a cigarette. He has famous quotes like, "Let's go break some bones," and "Good luck, morons," which is always fantastic from your race director. He is the one and only Lazarus Lake, or some others call him Gary Cantrell, like his wife does. So here we have it. Here's my first guest of 2020, Laz Lake, an absolutely entertaining bloke, fun to talk to, but also very interesting and very quite poetic in the way he speaks. We also have we talk about obviously the Barkley Marathons and Last One Standing. You know, his backyard ultra format has just exploded right around the world. We also have a very interesting discussion towards the end of this chat about women in backyard ultras and how they are really starting to take over. The winner of the last backyard ultra was Maggie Guttel in 60 hours. 2018, the runner-up was Courtney Dauwalter in I think 67 hours. So females are starting to have a really strong showing, but it's very interesting to hear what Laz has to say about it. So anyway, I'm cold. It's time for me to get out, and here's Lazarus Lake.
All right. Well, Laz, firstly, thank you very much for joining me in the first Chats from the Chest Freezer for 2020. Now, a question that has always been on my mind is, you're Gary Cantrell, AKA Lazarus Lake. Is there a different personality between Gary and Laz?
I don't believe so. I answer stuff on my email, and then a lot of times I check back to see which name they wrote to before I sign off. So I'll be consistent.
And so it's more. So Laz is more of your stage name.
I think of it as a nickname. It just got picked up along the way, and because of all the stuff going on, the internet, some people think that's my name, and I'm happy as long as I know that they're talking to me.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Hey, now, obviously, a lot of your events, particularly the Barkley Marathons and the explosion of what is Last One Standing, really suggests that you're quite a sadistic bastard, just loving to see people breaking down and being at their rawest. What is it that you love about what you've created?
Oh, it's a lot more satisfying to see the happiness on people's faces when they go further than they thought they could ever go, when they find things in themselves that they didn't know were there. There's
so is that the pleasure?
Pardon?
Sorry, so is that the pleasure that you get out of hosting or running these events?
Yeah, the discomfort that's involved is just a necessary byproduct. It's a necessary part of it, but it's not the part you like. I like running long distances, but I don't particularly like hurting.
Yes. So what sort of person do you think is turning up to Last One Standing now?
All kinds of people. It's really had a much more broad appeal than I really anticipated when we held the first one. Everybody has a place that's further than they've ever been. So going to the races in Sweden, where that's really an emphasis, you see people celebrating 2 loops because they've never gone further than 10 kilometers before.
Yep. Yeah, and I guess that's part of the magic of this format, everybody finding their new limit or sort of seeing, breaking through their barriers.
The real loser is the person who wins because they're the only one that doesn't find out how far they can go.
That's very true. And yeah, I think a great example was the 2019 Big's Backyard that you hosted with Maggie Guttel. winning at 60 hours, but looking so strong. And it, you know, the unfortunate thing of being the winner is that you need someone else to take you to your limit and try and go further. Will Hayward did an absolutely amazing job, and even he didn't think he was going to make it to 59. But Maggie, how much further do you think she had left?
You know, you just can't tell by looking at him. Will was one of the exceptions in that you could see his distress, but mostly they try to keep a good poker face, because if the opponent can see that you're in trouble, it just feeds them.
So in 2018, we had Johan Steen at, I think, 68 hours, and Courtney Dauwalter taking him all the way there. At 68 hours, do you think that we're going to see someone in the near future hitting that 100-hour mark? Do you think that's possible?
I don't know about 100 hours. A lot of us have talked about it, and I think most people are thinking that somewhere in the 80s is going to be getting pretty close to the limit, because that you run into the same problem Will ran into last year. Your mind starts to not function well enough.
Yeah, well, Will is fantastic. He actually thought he was back running in Hong Kong in the last, I think, for the last 10, 12 hours or so. And I'm looking forward to interviewing and having a chat to Will in a few weeks' time. You know, it's just extraordinary when people get, particularly, you know, past that 40-hour mark. What do you see in terms of their mindset? And where do people go mentally after they get to that 40 hours where they've had zero sleep and the body's really wanting to shut down?
You know, I haven't been out there with them. I know from my end, I ring the bell and blow the whistles every hour, and I just go from 1 hour to the next. As long as someone's still there, I keep going, and I think that's where they go. The winning strategy is always the same. You keep going to the starting line until you're the only one. Yeah.
I did a last one standing last year, and for myself, being a long distance swimmer, but I just saw this format as not a run, but it's more about your rest and nutrition and also that strong mindset. And I think that this last one standing has always been in the realm of the ultra marathoner. But do you see that this has the potential of gaining the appeal of athletes from other sports?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. You have to be able to obviously run 4 miles in less than an hour, but that's not really exceptionally hard.
No.
I think what I've seen in the Barkley as well is you don't always see that it's just the runner, but it requires a particular mindset to just keep stepping up there. Will Hayward had it in spades. Lots of people dropped out last year, and then afterwards they looked at Will going on and thought, oh man, I didn't have to stop.
So why do you think people stop?
Most people stop because they no longer believe they can win. You have the people who come in most of the backyard races who are just there to go the furthest they've ever been. So you'll see a large number drop out at, say, 50 kilometers or the next lap past the marathon, 50 miles, 100 miles. We always say that when you start the 25th hour, the people that step to the line there are the ones that came to play. Mm-hmm. At Biggs, pretty much everybody is in the running to win. So the only reason mostly they stop is when you might have something that goes wrong. You eat something that makes you sick. You have a porta potty stop that you just can't get done in time. things happen because you've got to perform every hour. But mostly people drop when they no longer believe they can win.
Yeah. In those the later hours of bigs, you do get very poetic, and you seem to have a very deep insight into the machinations of what's happening out there on course. Is this your sort of poeticness? Is this something that has always been with you? Because you do have a very interesting insight into what's actually happening.
I think it helps to understand, of course, to have been there as an athlete and to have been to as many races, and you're right there in the middle of it. But I don't know that it's so much poetic as if you write what happens, the writers themselves are writing the story, as opposed to going to an event and having a story in your head and writing your story. You go in with a blank slate, and then the events unfold however they unfold.
Yes. You're you're famous for pulling out some great quotes like let's go break some bones. And yesterday when we're chatting, you told me that sleep is for the weak. Do you ever sleep at Barkley or at Big's backyard?
I'm real good at dozing off where I am, sitting in my chair. At the backyard, I have a cycle of things that I do that starts with blowing the whistles and then ringing the bell and then going around to check the various things I'm responsible for, writing the update, and then I sleep such as I can. The year that Yohan did the 68 hours, I think over the course of the event, I'd accumulated 37 minutes of sleep, probably less than any of the runners.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, the last one standing format has really taken off over the last, particularly, if we look at the last 12 months, it's in now, about sort of 40 countries, I think it is. Do you see this as a trend or, sort of a new fad, or do you really think that this is something that's going to stick around for a long time like the Barkley has?
It's just really hard to say. It's certainly exploded. And I think to have lasting power, it needs a general appeal. And seeing all these people that are so happy to go the furthest they've ever gone or having intermediate stages, the social aspects. You can run with anybody anytime. It doesn't matter. You're all there together between the starts, and so runners like to socialize. The loneliness of the long distance runner is not an inherent part of a backyard event. So I think we'll have to see what happens over the next few years.
Yeah. It's been amazing to be part of the last one standing, particularly over the last 12 months. What do you see as being the ideal course for a last one standing?
Runners seem to like the Bigs course, which the trail it's not brutal or hilly, but it's got some personality to it because of where I live. I mean, you can only make it so easy in this location. You don't want it to be so difficult that the course is what takes you out. So and then the other part of the Bigs is the night course is really easy. It's just an out and back on the road with very little climb or descent involved, and people actually, such as it is, kind of get their rest and recuperation during the night loops.
So we've got the Australian, the Clint Eastwood last one standing in August this year, and we've got about 200 runners lined up for it. The course on this thing is like a clay tennis court. It's just smooth. The biggest hill would have to be about 1 meter high, 3 feet 1 yard in your language, and just the absolute beautiful flat place to go for a stroll through some bird watching fields. But the course is so easy that what we saw last year were some of the fast guys going out in 32 minutes, 35 minutes completing the course, getting 25 minutes rest, but then seeing some of these guys just explode. But then when we look at people like Katie Wright, for example, who's famous for not being the fastest runner and getting her laps done in about sort of 52 minutes. At Big, she was only getting about 5 minutes rest, but still went for 50 hours. What do you see as the ideal strategy in terms of how much rest these guys need?
I think that it's really all being ironed out right now. It's a brand new thing, and people are learning. There's obviously a learning curve because you see people really improve their results after a time or two out there. I think if I were running it, I would want to mix it up and run a little quicker loop every once in a while just to kind of kick things out, blow the cylinders open, but I'd want to do a lot of really easy laps to stay fresh. And I've seen people that run pretty quick and do really well. People that are around that 50-52 mark seem to be the ones hanging around the longest. I know I've seen the ones where people run hardly any of their laps over 40 and they don't go that long. And Biggs, I don't think anyone yet has won an hour in the first 12 hours and won the race. So definitely a fast start is not being rewarded.
Yeah, certainly. So they're coming in, these the top guys, Maggie and Will, those guys coming in with quite often less than 10 minutes to go. What do they do during that 10 minutes, particularly when we're about past 40 hours?
You want to get off your feet as fast as you can. I know that Maggie and her crew, they had pretty much a routine set up where they had their little muscle thing they rubbed on her, and they gave her food, and then later on she would try to catch a few winks. I don't know that it's so much doing the right thing between loops as not doing the wrong thing, and going to some of the races, particularly around the world, they have really elaborate setups with a virtual food court over there, and you see the people standing around in front of the food court and browsing for what they want to eat. You really need to start getting all the rest you can early, because if you're there to play, it's going to go for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And so obviously the crew is pretty vital. So it must be also, for the really long competitors, it must be pretty tough on their support crew as well.
I don't know that the crew is actually vital. Johan, when he did the 68 hours, which is the furthest anyone's gone, he didn't have a crew. He had a sack of liquids on one side of his chair and a sack of food on the other side. And he just finished each lap, sat down in the chair, and ate or drank if he felt like he needed it. And if not, bypass that, just flipped his blanket over his head and slept.
Yeah, I've seen the photos of Johan just sitting in his chair with a towel or a blanket over his head, just catching a couple of Z's. It's fascinating to watch, but to think that he went the 68 hours without crew is amazing.
You don't need a whole lot. You just need something to eat, something to drink, and to get off your feet as much as possible, because you're going to be on them a long time.
Yeah, certainly. And so obviously, I think what you're suggesting is simplicity is key to, firstly, the format, but also to how you approach it.
I think you don't have much choice but to keep it simple. There's really not as much rest time as people think. You have these things to do, and you just never really have adequate time. If you wanted to do major repairs on your feet, there's not time. If most people's fastest lap is the lap they're going to hit the porta potty because they know they need to build up some cushion. We have it situated where you can either hit it at the beginning of the lap or the end. And what we've discovered is everyone pretty much gravitates to doing it at the end. And that way they know how long they have.
Fair enough then.
And one of the golden tickets last year, to my understanding, was lost because someone could not get out of the porta potty in time for the next start.
Oh wow! What a way to win, but also to be eliminated.
I would think winning in any way you win is going to be satisfying, but how are you going to tell people how you failed?
Yeah, exactly. Johan and also Maggie. Yeah, there's obviously a great sense of winning Big's backyard, but for the people who do win a last one standing, do you think there is also a small element of being a little bit dissatisfied of not finding your limit?
They actually will say that. I don't know how far I could really have gone, or I could have gone further. I wish someone had pushed me.
Yeah.
But I think it certainly has a mindset. We thought last year bringing them in, you had the golden ticket winners and then the people who are at large entrants. And you thought some of the golden tickets, they hadn't really gotten that many miles because the races they ran in weren't as strong as they're getting to be now. But during the race, the golden ticket winners averaged 4 hours longer than the non-golden ticket winners.
Right.
There's something in your mind. It's when you bring in a bunch of champions. And of course, there's so few backyard ultras, most of them had never been beat, and they weren't going to go down easy.
So this year for Bigs, from what I've been reading, you pretty much got the big names coming along. I think Johan and Courtney are coming back. Is that right?
They are pretty much. I think everyone that's gone more than 50 hours is going to be here, barring some training injury or something in between. And we're depending on what happens with the races through the rest of the year, hoping that everybody over 40 hours can be here. And
wow, wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, it's going to be something. Last year there were still 44 people left at 24 hours. And there's no telling how many there will be this year, because out of the field that we're getting, even if we just take the golden ticket winners and the people that are already on the list who have applied that have gone over 30 hours, that we're not 24 hours may pass, and unless something happens, we still have everybody.
Wow. It's going to be such an amazing thing to watch. Now, the Clint Eastwood last one standing in August, you're coming out for it. Which is
understanding. I'm really excited about that because I think you're getting more experienced runners in Australia, and on a really good running venue. It could be a big total before that thing's done.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's certainly going to be a big time with about 200 runners. It's going to be certainly one of the largest last one standings around the world. Now, you've got a bit of a cult status around you, and obviously when you come out to Brisbane, I reckon that people are going to mob you for a bit. However, we need you to make tea for everybody, and I understand you're pretty good at making tea.
Making tea? They don't let me make the tea here because I think if you make a glass of tea and you put your spoon in it and stir it up and let go of the spoon, if it just falls over to the side, the tea is too weak. You need it to sort of ooze over there.
Well, maybe I'll find some other duties for you.
But I'm good at ringing the bell.
Oh, perfect. Well, we can certainly arrange for that to happen. Now, we're still about 7 months away or so from the start of the Clint Eastwood, and some of the other chats from the chest freezer that I've got coming up are your top 4 from Bigs last year: Maggie Gattell, Will Hayward, Dave Proctor, and also Katie Rice. And what I'm trying to do is delve into the mind, but also the preparation and the understanding of what makes these people go further. And so that, it would be absolutely amazing to see out of these 200 athletes, some really big numbers, big miles getting done. In terms of the preparation, the people coming into Bigs train specifically for that event?
I don't really know that much about their training. I've been reading a little bit of what's posted on the Bigs Facebook group, and they talk about working in a lot of walking in their training, that some of the better runners did not prepare to do enough to do the walking. And some people that haven't been to one before will do like a faux backyard race, running 4 miles every hour and taking their own rest breaks. Those tend to not last long because it gets harder than you would expect. So I think every aspect of it, people are just learning.
Yes. Have you been to Australia before?
I have not.
Wow. So what are you expecting?
Probably see some desert. Maybe I'll see a kangaroo.
Oh, you'll definitely see kangaroo.
It's a big wildlife area there, but there'll be so many people around. I don't know how acclimated the wildlife is to big crowds.
Well, on this particular course, it is very much known for bird watching, and there's a lot of, what are they called, tweakers, the bird watchers who are out actually on course quite a lot with their cameras. And even though there'll be a couple of hundred runners going through every hour, the birds still hang around, and it's actually it's very nice to sort of be part of the process of seeing the sunrise and also then the sunset later in the day, and the wildlife changes. We've got different birds throughout the day. Now we have with the Clint Eastwood a 1 a.m. start, which is with a midnight race briefing. But with Bigs, what time? You're famous for having interesting start times. I think last year it was like a 11:40 a.m. start time, which must have caused a lot of havoc on people because they had to try and work out in their mind 40 minutes, and the maths, particularly after quite a while, really makes it quite difficult.
We actually set our start time according to the sunrise, and we'll move it back a few minutes this year because we had plenty of light at the beginning. But at the 12th hour before we went on to the road loop, it got dark earlier than we'd hoped because it was so overcast and raining. So we really set our start time to make the maximum use of daylight hours on the trail. what the runners would do if they're smart is they just set their watch, because you know what time the start's going to be, and you set it to read an even hour at that time, or else you start a stopwatch at that time, so that you know an hour at a time.
Yes. Yes. So I think, Laz, when you come out, we're all, I can tell you, Australia is very much looking forward to seeing you, meeting you in person. You're famous. One of the things you're famous, obviously, with the Barkley is starting the race by lighting your cigarette. Are we going to see that on any one of our laps, or even just the start of the Clint Eastwood?
If that's what they want to do, I've always rang a bell, but I'm open to anything. I don't think I want to smoke a cigarette every hour for the duration of the event.
Well, how about what we might do is we'll set up a poll of how people want to see the Clint Eastwood kicked off.
The biggest adjustment I think that I'm planning to make in Australia is to get away from my habit of picking up insects and small animals that I find, because I understand everything in Australia will kill me.
Yeah, you're pretty much right there. It's if it doesn't kill you, it just stings a lot.
Yeah, now I've been stung and bitten plenty. I mean, picking it up is how you find out what stings and what bites, right?
Yeah, but basically with Australia, just take everything with a bit of caution then.
But in Australia, I'm going to take it all a lot more cautiously.
Fantastic. Well, Laz, thank you very much. It has been such an honour to chat with you, and I can't wait to see you out here in August. I think it's just going to be such a wonderful experience for the 200 runners, but also the support crew of about 200, 400 people. We're going to have a mini town, I think, pop up in the middle of this bird watching precinct.
Yeah, we turn our front yard into a Bedouin encampment every fall for bigs, so it'll probably be much the same. I think you'll have a big race. It sounds like it's going to be a great course, and because there's no place better to run than a track. And while it's not a track, it'll be like a track except dirt soft.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It's going to be brilliant, and I really want. We've already attracted some brilliant runners to this. It's sold out in about a day, I think. So yeah, I want to be able to sort of get people thinking about it, preparing for it. But also one of the things, Laz, that I'm going to do with this is do every sort of 3 hours or so, do some live feeds for the event, and really sort of publicize this around the world, because I think this particular format lends itself to live video, whereas any other ultra marathon is boring as hell. But this one just has a little bit of excitement. It's like a chess tournament, but more of the speed chess, where you can, you've got people coming back every hour. You can follow them into their tents and see their, whatever they're doing. And I really want to sort of set up, or sort of, I guess, set the benchmark for the live coverage of one of these events. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to go.
Well, they really are fun to watch on the internet, because it's sudden death overtime every hour, and the tension builds and builds as the numbers get smaller, and you just kind of start knowing that little group that's left, and then when someone goes, you feel the pang of anguish for them. And but what'll surprise you is when it ends, because it just builds and builds and builds the tension. It's sudden death overtime every hour, on and on. Every hour it could be over. Every hour it continues, and then it's done. And you're just left, what?
Excellent.
It always seems so sudden when it finally does end. It's just like it happened too quick. You had no chance to prepare yourself emotionally for it.
Yeah.
The other thing
Yeah.
that you find interesting is that there are people there in Australia who have the heart of champions, but they're not that fast. And so for all these years they run, and the fast people run off and leave them and they can't catch up. And those people rise to the top in the backyards, and you have unexpected people that are fearsome competitors, because if you can't run off and leave them, you can't the hell get rid of them. And
it's great.
It's fun to see those people come to the top, and it's fun to see it come to the end, and women are out there and nobody's thinking, oh, she did good for a girl. They're thinking, oh man, she's going to win this thing.
Oh man, and I think, you know, sort of with all the starting lists, the proportion of women is only perhaps about 20%, but they certainly make up, or if we look at bigs, you know, they made up 50% of the top four. And it's this particular format is such a leveler where we don't have gender discussions. We're not talking about, you know, guys and girls. We're talking about the runners, and everybody is equal. And like you have said, at the start of every race, everybody is in the lead.
Every hour. Yeah.
Every hour.
You know, the one thing that hurts is when a race has a women's division, the women do not do as well. Because time and again, I've seen a bunch of them now, and if you have a women's division, when the next to last woman goes, the last woman will just go one more lap. Because your mind, you know how your mind is in endurance events, it's always seeking an excuse to quit. So in a way, to make a women's division doesn't help the women, it handicaps them.
Wow.
There's no reason they can't run to win, because like bigs, we've never had a women's division, and women have been up there in those last couple of three runners every year, even though they're, like you say, only about 15 or 20% of the runners. They actually do disproportionately well.
Mm.
Maybe one day they'll have to establish a men's division.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It's so great to see an event that is a level playing field where we don't have discussions about, you know, men and women. You know, she did well for a woman or he did well for a man.
Now, coming back next year at Biggs, I think, depending on what happens at events during the year, it's probably going to be seen as the two favorites are Maggie and Ewan.
Yeah.
And hey, pick them. They're both really tough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's going to be so great to watch. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Les, and I really appreciate the chat.
Well, I appreciate you asking me. Looking forward to seeing all of y'all out there.
Excellent. Thanks, Les.
Bye.